Hi there, my name is Mary Andrews. I am 59 years old, and on August the 3rd, I'll be 60 years old, and I'm in a good place right now. I feel as if I have accomplished what I needed to thus far in life, but there's a whole lot more to do.
East Arcadia is country.
That's our community, a little town that we grew up in. It was a rural farming community.
She really took pride in it. It's a small town. We're talking about population, maybe 400, zero stoplights.
We go down there, it's so peaceful. And that's why we love going home.
Literally, when I brought my wife home for the first time, a turkey crossed the road.
Ooh, my first impression of East Arcadia. I was like, you live here?
As quote unquote city folk, I always like to joke about people from the country. So
we owned a farm and we grew tobacco, corn, soybeans, cotton, and that's how we, I believe, got very close because we worked so closely together.
Working on the farm, going to school, doing the chores.
And she would get out in the field with my brothers and she would have prime tobacco herself. Whatever needed to be done, she didn't complain.
When I think of East Arcadia, I just get a warm, fuzzy feeling. Like I just see an aura of like orange and yellow that just like look like a hug.
Whenever I go down to East Arcadia, she was East Arcadia.
Whenever you do a job, you do it well. She didn't believe in just doing anything halfway.
As a kid, Mary Lou was very friendly, sharing, giving, and very easy to get along with.
It was 10 of us. We actually were 12. 2 died early, but we grew up with 10 of us. Yeah, 5 boys and 5 girls.
We was never there at 10. It was a big gap between that. So we never was all 10 in the house at one time.
When her and her sisters got together, they was like 18-year-old girls.
She was always right there with her. I think it was 4 or 5 sisters.
She loved to serve others.
Mary Lou had an aunt that lived about a half mile from her house.
My grandmama's sister, and she was living by herself, so.
And every afternoon, you would see Mary Lou walking down the street to stay with her aunt so that she was not alone at night.
She always just wanted to just do her part, or ready for her chance to kind of really step in and do things.
If there's anybody that she felt like she needed, she would give. And she had the same expectations of me. I remember she called me one day asking if I could co-sign on one of my cousin's student loans. So I was like, man, that's a horrible decision. It's a horrible financial decision. And so I would never get that back. I wasn't even paying back my own student loans. So at the time, but that was just her mentality of just wanting to continuously give.
Oh, she just loved giving. She was like my mom when she grew a garden. She was for anybody in the community to come and pick things from her garden.
My mother's name was Eltha Lee Shipman.
I remember my grandmother being very nurturing, but very much the disciplinarian. If I got in trouble, it was grandma that was spanking.
My father's name was Levi Elmore Dixon. We would sit around the table and have prayer together, and he would teach us the Bible and so forth.
My father would speak. When my father would speak, everyone would listen because he didn't really spoke that often. But when he spoke, everyone knew that it was of substance.
It appeared as if my mom was a daddy's girl. Loved her father, did anything for him.
We were just blessed to have had the parents that we had.
She used to say that despite how rural East Arcadia is, as long as I can get to the airport, I'm fine.
She loved to travel. I mean, anytime she had an opportunity to go someplace, she's ready to go.
Oh yes, we did a lot of traveling. I carried her on her first cruise to the Bahamas, and she went everywhere. She went to Japan, she went to California with me, and you name it, she was there.
She loved to go to Jamaica. She loved to travel to see her siblings, whether that's Raleigh or whether that's Charlotte, or whether that's South Carolina.
We traveled together quite a bit, and there were a couple of trips where sometimes we ended up staying with some of her relatives as well. And her family, her relatives, are some of the most generous, kind, loving, caring people that I have met. And their homes were open to me as well as my children at any given time. So I always felt at home with them.
On the weekends, we would all pack up into the car. So the car wasn't so big that it could fit everyone. So I would have to go in the trunk of the car. It was the trunk of the car, but you could, reach over from the back seat of it. And we went to Wilmington. We had a ball. We come back, and I had fallen asleep on the ride back. And so I wake up, and no one's in the car, and I'm like crying, like, where's everyone? So I go in the house and I'm like, y'all left me, and they were like, oh, we're so sorry. So that probably would be like my fault. And Aunt Lou was like, we left you? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, baby.
My uncle, my grandfather's oldest brother, pursued a master's degree in education. So education was always at the forefront of our family.
Some of my aunts, they were teachers. They were one of the first teachers in the community. And so when my sister decided to go off to college, yes, she wanted to be a teacher. She attended the same college that I attended, Baba Scotia College in Concord, North Carolina.
And my uncle, he was a Kappa, so he was pledge of fraternity Kappa. But there would be times that my mom would come up and, everybody would give her a little bit more respect because of my uncle.
Well, she was a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. And yes, she loved her sorority.
So I have AKA in the back because I am an AKA. So was Mary Lou. So that was something that we definitely bonded on.
And I ended up going into the brother chapter of AKA. So me and my mom always talk about our bond there.
Because I think she went on and got a master's and BS and master's and still was going to school and still wanted to learn.
She had me when she was in Georgia. She went to Georgia to pass her teaching exam. That's when she had me. And she, found that my grandmother was sick and she was on her last breaths or things of that nature. So she went back home.
She was teaching in Georgia, and she moved from Georgia and came back home to take care of my mother.
Just before my grandmother passed away, she became very ill. I think by that time her kidney disease had progressed and they amputated her leg.
And she was an excellent caregiver to both her parents.
And it meant a lot because we knew that she could check on our parents and let us know what was going on.
And to know that so far away, that Mary was there to be there when I couldn't be there and others couldn't be there.
My mother passed away when she was about 66 or 67.
I think it just means sacrifice, knowing that somebody has to do it. So, who's going to step up? And which is probably one of the reasons. I can't say it all, but, that some of that probably puts, friction in the marriage when one makes that kind of sacrifice to family.
I recall that my mother and father been divorced when I was at the age of maybe 6 or 7 years old. It was more of a struggle for me because my brother was so young. If I'm 6, my brother had to be maybe 1. When you marrying your spouse, you expect for it just be you and your spouse and y'all create a family. So I think, outside looking in, that's where some of the friction probably ensued. My mother was just so committed to her family.
I don't know exactly why it didn't work out. I think that even listening to my dad to this day, I think he has admitted and came to that he probably made some decisions that he shouldn't have.
I was with both parents and now I got to choose between the parents. I'm seeing parents argue and whatnot. So despite her trying to protect me from it, I'm a kid. I'm gonna be nosy. I'm gonna put my nose in things that I had no business doing. And I'm seeing some of these things. I'm seeing the struggles. I'm seeing some of the sacrifices that she had to make, but not knowing the severity of them until I became an adult and realized that the commitment that she put in and just for the sake for my brother and I. She became a single parent on a $35,000 salary. It was tough. With that, me and my brother, we went to reside with my mother and her father.
My father was a big support in helping out. He understood the importance of family. He was a loving, caring man as well. And anything that he could do to help out with the Anthony and Travis he did.
And I think that is what kind of shaped us on who we are.
I would say that my dad is very much a mommy's boy. He loved his mommy, so I could just imagine how it was growing up. My grandma was a good mother. She was just good all around.
And she was very loving. Her loving was just in a different way. It was hugs and kisses. It may look a little different, but she definitely showered them with love.
Whatever activity they was involved in, she was there because she did not want them to be a statistic.
You would not be a statistic for anyone to say because of the color of your skin. You cannot make it. Or because of you are a single mother, or she's a single parent, or because you didn't have a father around, or whatever.
You know, I had no intentions to going to jail, but, you know, I know that, I do also know the stats. So making it past a certain age, making it out of high school, making it out of college.
I recall graduating high school, and my mother looked at me and said, you know, most people getting praised for graduating high school. My mother looked at me and said, okay, you know, it's a second step to this. We don't want a diploma. We want a degree. We want that sheepskin.
The value of education. Absolutely, the value of education.
She actually taught at the elementary school I attended, Snipes Elementary. I think I really embarrassed her one year. One year, my entire class got expelled from the cafeteria. And Aunt Lou says, just a shame, just figure us out. Oh. That type of deal. So
our friendship was meant to be, it was karma driven. Why do I say that? The first member of her family that I met was her sister San. And San and I attended the same HBCU. Then the next member of her family that I met was her brother Joe.
My mother's best friend, Miss Annette Halls, we all was at the same school together. Miss Annette Halls was a third grade teacher. My mother was a third grade teacher. We started off with the school in Wilmington, North Carolina called Annie H. Snipes.
She ironically found a job at the same school that I had been teaching at for quite a few years, or at least 5 or 6 years. And we were both excited, just excited to know that we were going to be working together. And also we developed an instant friendship, an instant bond.
I was always in banking and what have you. Mary said, well, Terry, why don't you become an educator? Why don't you apply for a job as a teacher? I said, teacher? I said, I never want to be a teacher. We have too many in our family. And she says, well, go ahead. And she said, try it. I said, so I went for the interview and actually got the job. And so if it had not been for Mary coaching me from the day that I walked into that classroom, I would not have made it.
As a teacher, Mary Lou had the philosophy that every child could learn, but at different rates and different speeds. She worked with every child on his or her individual level.
I recall a time period when the school district gave my mother the most difficult and challenging kids in the district or in that region. But I didn't stop her because she always have an understanding that if you give kids attention and you show them a sense of love, of that you care or that a hope, that the best will come out of them.
Mary challenged to take the kids that were 1s and 2s and bring that grade level up to a 3 and 4. Those were the students that she loved to work with.
Ironically, that year, that grade, who's supposed to be the troublemakers, had one of the highest scores in the end of grade testing.
Because she gives that sense of like actually caring and loving and wanting to see a student do better.
And she knew that education was one way that they could improve their lives. So she poured everything she could into those children.
At the end of the day, she wanted to see where she had made a difference in their little lives.
You can train people to teach, but teachers are born.
My mother's up 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, ready to get the day started.
Mary would be the first one, honestly. She would actually, after the custodians, I think Mary was the next one to be the school.
She would call me and she would be already at school and she said, you hadn't gotten out the house yet to go?
All I know is she don't sleep. I don't know. She be to stay up all night. Like if we have a family function or a family reunion somewhere or even on vacation or she'll come visit, she'll stay up all night watching TV and then somehow she'll fall asleep and be the first one up.
So you'd be up early.
with the coffee, always early.
But me being at my mom's school was we bonded because we used to take that ride in the morning all the way to school in the afternoon. So we spent a lot of time, a copious amount of time together.
My grandma really put a lot of education into us and let us know that education was important. So I know as her grandkids and stuff, I could only imagine what the kids that she taught and stuff. And then like anybody that would see us in the community will always tell us how my grandma was a great teacher. So everybody loved her.
But I can tell you she was one of the most impactful teachers simply because a lot of my classmates growing up had her, and they would always talk about the impact she made.
A lot of the students that she had came up to Anthony and like, oh, tell Mrs. Andrews I said hey, and she was my favorite teacher, or they'll share a memory that they had.
Some of my friends, even to this day, they still talk about her. So when she passed, you know, all I could get in my phone messages, inboxes. Man, I love Miss Andrews. I love Mrs. Andrews. She was great. She was great. She's the best teacher I ever had.
I look at some of my other peers who was able to engage with my mother. One of my friends, close friends, Eric Brown, she kind of practically raised him with us, and he contributed some of his successfulness to my mom.
Very, very professional, very hardcore. Very want you to succeed. She ain't take no BS at all. So she wanted you to give 100% every day. I mean, basically she was like my second mom, basically. She never gave up. Even when times looked hard, Mary Lou always came through with like, hey, it's possible, it can be done. So she was always just a person who gave great inspiration every day on a daily basis.
I got a chance to see her work as a teacher and appreciate her craft. A big part of education, obviously, is classroom management. If you don't have that, you don't have anything. So she was excellent at that without being mean, but being firm.
Anything that the community needed, they know that they could call on Mary Lou and she would be an active participant.
How was she not involved in the community? That's the question.
She was on the city council of East Arcadia.
She was on the board of trustees for the local community college.
She's also a town councilwoman. So she did that for years.
Very active in her town and very, very active in her church.
She was the announcer in church.
As a Sunday school teacher.
She served in so many different ways. It's hard to kind of pinpoint one thing that she did or did well, because she did so many things well for our church.
She loved Pleasant Union. Oh my gosh, she loved her church.
So she was extremely spiritual, extremely religious, and extremely faithful to the church and to Christ.
She's a Christian woman. We was going to Sunday school, church, Bible study, vacation Bible school. She was very into the church.
She was definitely a God-fearing person. She took her boys to Sunday school, to church.
At the age of 9, I went up and chose to get baptized. And I walked out to my mom. My mom was crying. And that's the first time I really seen her, emotional like that. And I asked her why she was crying. She said she was just so proud. That was a really powerful moment for me. So that church is, everything for me. To this day, when I go down, I sit where my granddad sat. That's where I like to be.
He was very heavy into church, right? I remember one time we were supposed to go to church or something, and we didn't end up going, and we got fussed out bad because we didn't go. So church was something that was very important to her. She even had a real close relationship with the pastor. The pastor was like her other son.
She took him in like a son, to advise him about things that the members thought he should do, and she would try to talk to him about ways of handling that.
She was very, very aware that I was young when I came and made some errors and mistakes in life, but she never judged me for them. She always gave me guidance in terms of what I should be doing, and she demanded me to do things that I needed to do.
She didn't bite her tongue. She would. If she said it to Travis and Ann, she said it to us too.
When things get tough, it wasn't no boo-hooing and crying and getting all this love from mom to say everything will be okay. You tried. It was, hey, you need to try again. You need to look at what went wrong and analyze and think, but at the same time, trust God.
Make sure she tapped into our quality world and would just keep updates, or make sure she was updated with what we were doing. And not only that, she would take it a step further and tell other people about what you're doing.
She'll text, hey, It's your uncle's birthday. You need to text your uncle. Hey, everybody, it's such and such birthday. Hey, Tiffany just got an award. Everybody go show some love. Like she was that glue that kept everybody in the know.
Aunt Lou was all knowing. She talked to everybody. Everybody talked to her. Everyone confided in her. So she knew exactly what was going on in my life because she talked to my mom every morning. Because I'll tell my mom what's going on.
Her big thing was like telling everybody. So if you told everybody, she thought you could embarrass you, then you wouldn't do it again. So sometimes it worked. You know, there's nothing that we could tell my mom that everybody didn't know. So if I told her one thing, she immediately called all her sisters, all her uncles, and she just telling everything that happened. Whether you got a bad grade, whether you got suspended, whether you did this, you ended up in church. So then you have a clan of people just coming down on you. And I think she utilized them because of the absence of my father. So her only reinforcer was a community.
She, as well as I, related that on a daily basis sometimes, especially when they were growing up, especially those teenage years.
Me, I wanted to grow up too quick to see some of my peers and see even some of my cousins, with their fathers, with items and with things. Our lifestyle was a little bit more of a struggle than some of my cousins. They had a 2-parent home. A lot of my peers had a 2-parent home, so they had opportunities for some of that material things and things of that nature.
We lived in a family house, which is my granddad's house, that, at any given time, anybody could come into the house. And it's basically because they were visiting my granddad, so they were just alike. So you may be sitting there and, by the time you know it, 20 people there today, everybody's spending the night. So whenever anybody comes back home, that's not just my room. My room was shared with a lot of people. I have 3 or 4 cousins that's older than me that remember staying in that room, growing up in that room as well.
It kind of felt like sitcomish because in any given day, my Aunt Lou's big brother, my Uncle Donald would come through and he would want to work the field. Or my cousin Jerry, who wasn't too far away, would come up. Like, family was always around.
The household was never ours, so we never had anything that could be just ours. And I just wanted something that was just ours, and I wanted just more. I had to learn patience, and I think that's where my struggle was at because I wanted it now.
She always cared about her kids, for one. She made sure they was good in school, and I think that since she was like a single mother, she was doing like the best she can. And I think he really looked up to her for that.
But I think she understood. I think she did have a level. She had more patience for me than I had for myself. She had an understanding, but I probably was challenging.
In high school, me and Travis had basketball practice. After practice, like I said, we skipped and was hanging out with our friend Marv in Elizabethtown, North Carolina. Literally, Mary Lou went through Elizabethtown, North Carolina, everybody's house, everywhere, trying to find us to make sure we get our ass home that night. When she got her mind set on something, ain't nothing you can do.
It's kind of different. Even when she would talk to us, kind of a no nonsense. It's a, yes, you can do it. No, I can't. Well, why can't you do it? Yes, you can.
And Aunt Lou knew. She was like, I'm gonna have to rein them in, Terry. Like, I just would hear my mom be like, Lou, leave those boys alone. No, Terry, they're not gonna be no statistic. No.
I can understand her fear because, you don't know what's going to happen, what's to come of this. This is your first time doing it. And not only are you doing it, you're doing it alone.
You're going to go to school, that was her word, and you're going to get your degree, which they got 3 degrees.
You're talking about a single parent in a rural town. Will anybody predict that both 2 sons will go on to have PhDs, be business owners, be college professors? The statistics does not say that.
So we definitely surpassed her expectations of not being a statistic, which we're really proud of.
The impact they are having in this world to other youth through mental health and everything, I know she'll be proud of them. She was proud of them.
I give her props as a mom because she was a proud mom for her sons and they accomplished so much and I'm proud of them.
I have 2 sons. Travis, my oldest one, is in Japan. Anthony, my youngest one, is in Charlotte, North Carolina, and he also works for the military as Travis does in Japan there.
My Aunt Mary Lou was amazing. She made you feel special.
She made all the nieces and nephews feel like they was number one.
If you talk to each and every one of her nieces, we believe truly in our heart that we were her favorite. And I know that I am the absolute favorite.
You may have 4 or 5 people and each person felt the same type of love for Mary Lou, you know, and that was just to me, that's just the hardest thing to do.
She made each one of us feel like we were number one. I talked to her every day, and I wasn't the only one that talked with her every day.
And that's like, that refers back to the one phone call away. Like, she always talked to everybody. She knew what everybody had going on.
So when I was born and lived at the house, my grandfather was 77. I'm talking about the most patience that an individual can have, you know, and still was able to still build this earth till I was 30 years old. I think that was a blessing within itself. Not crippled, not impeding, it was still driving the whole 9.
When I came in, he was around 77, 76, whatever, and gave me another 23 years, you know, of just wisdom in life. So
Grandpa was like a superhero. He always sat in his chair.
Granddaddy was always chilling in his green recliner, and that's just what we knew.
His famous rocking chair. And it has changed. It had changed throughout the years, but it was always directly in front of the TV.
Granddad I would crawl in his lap every morning and he'd read the newspaper, always teaching me things. I was a very chatty child, so he would answer every question. I think I would just kind of just ask things just because, and he'd always come up with an answer.
I spent a lot of time with Granddaddy, man. He was, I like to describe him as stoic, a poet.
Oh man, Deacon Dixon was a man among men. He was educated, but not formally educated, but he was probably wise beyond his training years.
I had the privilege, and I really consider the privilege of meeting Mr. Levi. He was an extraordinary individual, man.
Every graduation we had, Granddaddy had a handful of poems. Bridge Builders was one of his favorite poems, Equipment. So he would always recite these.
And he could quote poems, the bridge builder, and let you know in the bridge builder, don't tear the bridge down, because one day somebody want to come cross it and you got to leave it open for them.
This man got his GED, I think he was 95. If he came along in our generation, he would have probably been a college professor.
Lifelong learner, like he was studying up until, like, he got his GED, and they're gonna get me if I don't know the exact age, but I want to say it's like 88, 89.
My granddaddy would frequently say, you can't have faith and fear at the same time. The two do not exist.
I remember many times when maybe I was looking for a particular verse in the Bible, and he immediately quoted the chapter and the verses for me.
When I was in college, I can remember sometimes, I just ride down home just to sit and be in his presence. So it was just so peaceful.
Oh goodness, Mr. Levy's passing, it affected her tremendously. Fortunately, she had the closure of being there.
When my father passed away, Mary was on one side of the bed, Mary Lou was on one side of the bed, and Travis was with her, and I was on the other side.
We all went in the back room and just sat with him. It was my mother, my Uncle Joe, and my grandfather in there. My grandfather, we were talking about the business, telling about what we're doing and things of that nature. And I think that gave him peace.
He reached over and grabbed my hand, my arm. He grabbed my arm. And then once he let it go, he was gone.
And when he died, we observed how he looked laying there in so much peace.
My mother looked over and said, Daddy? She said, Daddy? Daddy? Then she had a deer in the headlight look. It's like, is it okay? And said, Daddy, Daddy. But just to be in that space with him, it just gave me a sense of peace, because that's one of the men who raised me. So be able to be in that room with him when he took his last breath, to me, it was just therapeutic.
Yeah, he was not sick. He was in his right mind, and he lived a wonderful life.
We knew we couldn't keep him forever, but it hurts still.
Even we knew he was going to leave us, but it still was devastating.
But for me, it just was like, Granddaddy has always been here and he will always be here. And he wasn't one day, and my world was just shook.
You know, when he passed in 2013, that hit me hard. That really hit me hard.
In the back of your mind, you know it's coming, but when it gets there, you're just kind of like, what now?
And to be honest with you, after he passed, things just took a complete shift within the family. And my mom, I would say, took the role of a matriarch.
After her dad died, Mary Lou Young was the glue of the family.
He meant a lot to everybody. He touched us in so many ways, but she was there. There's the caregiver, the daughter.
So when someone passes like that, you know, you have to refine your purpose. You know, and it was a real struggle for my mom to refine that. And also to make sure that everybody else understood that you're not just coming home for granddad, but you're coming home because it's home.
There was so much of an urgency for us to get down home with family reunions and family gatherings. And when he left, it shook things up.
And it was really like a calling to make sure that you don't forget about me as well. You know, I've sacrificed so much for mom. I've sacrificed so much to dad. They're both gone. Make sure you guys surround me with that love now.
She's the one that kept the family connected, especially when our parents had passed away. She would stay in contact with each and every one of us.
She would speak directly from what Daddy wanted. No, Daddy wanted this. Daddy wanted us to stay together.
I mean, she would say, you remember Daddy said this, Daddy wanted this.
We called her like 411 Central. So if anything's going on with the family, with anyone, Aunt Lou would know.
And she would call us and say, it's time to come home, you know. And she would call you every day. And she made sure the family reunion kept going. The last family reunion we had was after the COVID she had it there in the yard. She said, we're gonna have it here at Daddy's in the yard. And that was the biggest turnout we had that last year.
And kept the family together when it comes to cookouts, family reunions, church meetings, or going to anywhere. It had to go through Mary Lou.
She was very, very serious about family reunions.
Every family reunion, all the cousins would get together.
I mean, so many stories. I got good stories, I got bad stories. I got stories from when we, as kids, acting up, and she whooped everybody.
There was one particular night, in the common room that we all stayed in, there was an old furnace, and it was still semi-warm. And one of my cousins, Bobby, he had a water gun, and he would shoot water at the furnace, and it would make this loud noise, and it was just real mischievous, real disruptive. And so about 3 or 4 more times of Bobby continuing to hit that furnace, Aunt Lou had it. And I'll just be honest with you, man, she came out there with the belt, because we didn't sleep. It was like a Western. You ever seen those Westerns where my man kicks open the doors and he doesn't care who's in the saloon, everybody gets it? Well, that's what happened. The only thing was I was the only one around. I was the only one who got it. And I was taking a nap on the couch. And she lit me up, and I woke up crying. And all the cousins were laughing at me because they all got out of Dodge, they all got out of Fleet. And I said, oh, no, what does that mean? She said, well, shit, I got you for whoever else did it. That's what she told me. And we laugh about that to this day, man.
She kept the family together because, like, if anyone was to get into an argument, like, family-wise, she would say, like, yeah, y'all are in an argument, but you have to get over it because that's your family. Like, that's all y'all have. And y'all are blood, so.
Her me time will entail her being with her brothers and her sisters. What makes me happy is me being with my family. I don't care if that's my kids, I don't care if that's my grandkids, I don't care if that's my siblings. That gives me joy and gives me peace.
She was the glue because she was so connected with everybody. And to be the glue, you have to know what's going on in everybody's lives. So how do you do that? That's constant text. That's constant calls, check-ins.
If her niece's great nephew had a birthday, she knew when it was. You know? Or if they were graduating from preschool, she knew when it was going to happen.
I am telling you, the communication between Mary and her family and friends was unbelievable.
When it came to social media, all the things that I do, she was the first one to make a comment.
She'll be the first like and comment, you know. that was Aunt Lou. She'll comment and she'll post. She didn't care who saw it or what it was. If you posted something you don't need to be posting, or if you out here doing something you don't need to be doing, she'll be the one to let you know, hey, you need to take that down, son.
I don't know if she had her notifications on or what, but whatever you posted social media wise, she was the first one.
I'm a children's book author, and she's always been supportive. And when I would have podcasts, she would be on there. She'd be making comments. The people would post her comments up there.
Aunt Lou was the glue because she literally contacted everyone. I don't know what her phone bill was like before unlimited text messages and calls.
It was nothing out of the ordinary for her to have as many as, oh gosh, depending on what was going on, she could have 20 family calls.
Every morning she would call everybody.
She said, you guys think this is easy? I have to pick out the right inspiration for everyone. And she would spend time in the morning to find just the right inspiration that we needed as a family.
If everybody's busy in their life doing what they do, Mary Lou is always the person who can bring everybody together at any time. Like, she make one text, one call, everybody stop what they doing. They're like, all right, we got to answer this.
But one of the things that touches me the most, the effect that she had on my son. I played basketball overseas for the last 15 years. She was an extension of me not being there. And my mom, they would take care of my son like if it was her son. She would call every morning. She retired. It was like clockwork. Y'all up, y'all getting ready for school? You feed that baby yet? You got his hair done? Just the things that she did that she didn't have to do. Even if it was little or big, it meant so much to me. And I know it meant so much to my son.
Sometimes I look at the old text messages that she was saying.
And I'm looking back at this, it's just us. We're just communicating every day. Just constant, just communicating. Wow.
She never forgot my birthdays. Happy birthday, my handsome, talented rapping nephew. Enjoy your day.
Good morning. As Granddaddy always said, God is everywhere. So know we all love you and will be there for you. Your mom, you, and Braxton. Love, Aunt Lou.
Last text you texted me was, I understand, continue to pray and ask God to lead you. She says, God, then family. That was what she texted me last.
And then when she just checks on you every now and then, just to check on me, she's like, how's my Tiffany doing? Love my Tiffany. And so that's like the last, oh God. Yeah.
Maybe a song that would describe it. One of my favorites is You've Got a Friend. The words being, all you have to do is call. Winter, spring, summer, or fall. You've got a friend. Just call me and I'll be there. That was our mantra.
If you needed something, it was nothing to call grandma up. Or grandma would call us or text us and check in. She used to send text messages to us every single morning, like motivational quotes and stuff. That she was just somebody you could depend on.
And Anthony will be getting married soon in May of 2017. His fiance, Demetrius, is over there. And I have my granddaughter with me, Christian. Christian, come over and say hi. Mm-hmm. And I have another granddaughter, Princess. She's in Rocky Mount now with her mom and her stepdad.
Okay, and then you want to say, Christian?
Hi.
Most proud grandmother you've ever known.
Proud grandma. Oh, she bragged. She bragged on the grandbabies all the time, as she should have, because they're adorable.
And she would always say that grandma loves you. Who loves you? You like, grandma loves us. So she was big at that too.
She got soft in her old age.
My nieces, my brother's kids, they get away with anything. My kids, they got away with anything. I remember coming back from a trip and my mom telling me all these things that my daughter Nia was doing. I was like, Mom, did you get on her? Did you say something to her? Did you put her in timeout? What did you do?
Right. I say, Ma, come on, man. I say, you wouldn't even allow me to do half of this stuff right here. She said, stop judging me as a mom. In this space, I'm a grandma.
My parenting days are over. I spoil them and give them back to Travis or give them back to Anthony. My mama days is over. No, I spoil the babies. Y'all raise them. I'm done.
She believed in being in the life of her grandchildren.
FaceTime calls every day. If you needed her to come to Charlotte or the home just to watch the kids, she's there. She's getting on the road immediately. If I need to bring them down. But just present every single day.
Once the kids came, we talked literally every single day. So yeah, she was really like a second mom. I talked to her, really honestly, I talked to Lou at that time more than I talked to my own mom, just because she blew my phone up all day for the kids. She always said that we were co-parenting, and I'm like, no, we're not. It definitely meant a lot, because I could call her at any time to come down. I could let her know, like, hey, I need you here Sunday at 5. And she's like, okay, I'll be on the road in the morning. To have a grandma who's literally obsessed with your kids and like worship the ground they walk on and can't do any harm is the best feeling in the world.
You couldn't ask for a better grandma. She told me that her purpose in life was to be a grandma at this point in her time in her life. The later years, the only purpose she had was to being a grandma. And what does retirement look like for you now?
Well, retirement looks like, okay, I should stay in bed, but I constantly get up on my regular schedule around 5:30 a.m. But I love getting up that early just to see the sun rise and just enjoy the quietness.
I miss her breakfast. I miss her cooking.
Her cooking. She made sure we had breakfast. Pork and beans and rice. And I'm sure you've heard this throughout. You're going to hear that pork and beans and rice. She's known for that.
To me, that's her signature dish. And I'm willing to bet money that if you ask a handful of people, that might be what they say.
I miss her laugh. I miss her texting every day, always in somebody's business.
She wasn't going to judge, but she was going to make some little comments, but it was still enough to express to her like what you're going through and all.
But she always had something to say. She was not wanting to be quiet. If she thought it, she said it. If she felt it, she said it. She was not going to close her mouth. She spoke her mind. She spoke her truth.
I would hear her say that often. She's like, well, it's my place to tell you. And essentially, I'm giving you some guidance. You should have done this different. And this is what you need to do, go about it to fix it.
And then growing up, as we was growing up, my grandma she definitely helped my dad with parenting and stuff. You know, no decision is getting made without him calling my grandma up and asking with like advice and stuff. So, and then she always had us over the summer. So they was close. They talked every day. It's not a day that my dad wouldn't go without talking to my grandma.
If you knew Mary, you loved her, no matter what kind of relationship you had with her.
Mr. Coley was an intellect, and Mary Lou was, so they got together and always was communicating, go places and go to eat and different things like that. So they was a good companion, and they would travel together. So they really seemed to enjoy each other.
I think I was staying with her at this time. And he was my principal, and then she was working in the school, and I don't know, they just started talking.
You know, Mr. Coley, that's Aunt Lou's friend.
Mr. Coley was my grandma boyfriend that she tried to act like was not her boyfriend, her boo, but that was definitely her boo. Grandma would try to act like she loved Mr. Coley. Her and Mr. Coley had a close relationship, but the way my grandma is, she just don't believe in portraying that for real.
We're like, okay, Aunt Lou, this is your, as they would say, little friend.
I don't know why she never wanted to say boyfriend. She said, I'm too old for a boyfriend. I'm like, well, it's your boyfriend.
You know, me and my brother, we was jealous of just in natural, my mother talking to anybody, we just had that protective being of just being sons.
Yeah, Mr. Coley's cool, and I didn't like him at first. So, he knows that. So if you're listening to Mr. Coley, you know that. And I'm gonna tell everybody why I didn't like him, because she never really introduced me. So he just walks in, and I'm like, okay, well, who's this guy? As men, sometimes we take on, for single moms, you take on a role as being that guy because your dad didn't step up and do that, right? So you're just like the position. So I'm like, well, who's about to fulfill this position? This is great if somebody can. So this is all a funny thing I joke about, and I'm sure that he'll find it funny. We went out to dinner, and I'm expecting him to pay because we always pay. My brother always pay. And he didn't pay. So that was, so I'm like, well, this is not good. But over time, Mr. Coley started to grow on us.
But, as we got older, we have an understanding that, hey, he brought companionship to my mother.
We traveled a lot. Mary obviously was a big family person. And so when we first hooked up, we went to a whole lot of family functions, reunions, If I had been so inclined as to marry someone else, it would have been married.
It can get lonely down there by yourself, and there's nobody really there. And I know she needed somebody to really spend time with. And thank God, I mean, he was there the day that she passed. And at least he was there to be able to call 911, because nobody would have known anything in that time. We would have just, kept calling until eventually somebody, went down there and kicked the door in, but he happened to be there. So I always appreciated his presence for that.
So just to know that she wasn't there alone in that house when that occurred, and that, okay, he at least was with her. It don't make it right, but it gives me peace.
I knew early on, about a year before she passed away, that she had gone to the doctor and say had lupus.
She ended up being diagnosed with lupus, and there was an array of health problems.
She wanted to make sure of everybody being taken care of. But I don't think she was, taking care of herself like she should.
She had pain. She'd say that she was in pain, her legs and so forth, but she did not complain.
She couldn't move as fast as she used to. She would say her knee.
Like, she would text us that her knees are hurting or she's throwing up today, but she would make it seem like it's just a virus, like a stomach virus.
And she was tired a lot, her hair falling out.
When she was wearing a hairpiece, and when she removed it, I could see all the hair. And I was like, oh my God, Lou. But I felt bad because I didn't want her to feel that bad. And I didn't realize that all of her hair was coming out like that. And she tried to dismiss it as if it's not that serious.
But she didn't talk about it a lot.
She's like, oh yeah, like, I don't think, it's nothing. And
my mom just kind of kept going. She never really rested, so we didn't know how bad it was, and you couldn't really tell her to rest. So she just kept going. So we didn't really see it a noticeable decline.
Because I don't think she wanted people to worry about her.
She would still show up hurting because she wanted to go forward with whatever was on the table.
She didn't miss nothing. She was going to go whether she felt well or not.
She would always say, I say, Mary Lou, I see you tomorrow. She would say, if God's willing. She would always say that, if God's willing, I'll see you tomorrow.
The last couple of months, whenever we would talk in the morning, she says, Tara, I appreciate you.
My mom's birthday weekend was the last weekend that we actually spoke.
It was a good weekend because I got to see her happy. I got to see her be a grandmother. I got to see her be nurturing, caring, and talk a little trash at the same time. And James, what you got down there to drink in that bar? That's what she always used to say. But I got to see all of the sides of her.
I would say our last memory with her was when she dropped me off to college. That was my last time seeing her, and I didn't hug her because I was in a rush I had some event going on at school, and I didn't get to hug her. And then we had one more FaceTime with her before she passed away, and that was it.
And then the week that she passed, we was on a FaceTime call. I'm just glad we got that FaceTime call.
The last time that I actually saw Mary, she and her sister Sand came to Wilmington. It was a restaurant called Indochine. And it's kind of strange because I travel that street quite often here as I move around. And sometimes when I drive by, I avoid looking at it. I don't want to look at it.
But that Sunday morning before she left, she was up in my kitchen and she was cooking her pork and beans and rice. And I could tell her knee was hurting. And I was like, oh, Lou, you don't have to do this. You don't have to cook this. She's like, but I want to, and I'm going to.
My understanding is lupus. She didn't die of lupus. She had an aneurysm that the doctor said that sort of aneurysm that sort of movement would give you the sensation that you couldn't breathe, but you can breathe. It was tremendous shock, and especially to have been there, at the time. Of course, the first person I called was her sister, Terry.
I got a call from Coley, and that should have been a little after 8, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. That's when I found out.
My mom calls, she hangs up. My dad calls, he hangs up. Then my dad calls again. It's about 10 at night. I go, what's going on, Dad? And I can hear my mom in the background, like hysterical. And it was Horrifying.
We spoke to her about 5:30 that day. And the last person she spoke to from here was Nia. Then she texted me again, like maybe 30 minutes later after that, send me a picture of Drew and us together, my son. And then we got a call, around like 7 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night.
So I answered, and I didn't really understand fully what was going on. I told Anthony. Anthony was on the phone with his brother.
My brother and I have a presentation that next day. All right, and he and I are on a Zoom call. My Uncle Joe keeps calling him. He said, "Uncle Joe calling." He declines it. Uncle Joe calls again and said, "Huh? My mama, what's going on?" Uncle Joe said, "Lou got rushed over to the hospital. Know what's going on?" Like, what? He's like, "All right, I'm gonna meet you at the hospital." I'll never forget as I get there and Craig comes and greets me to the car. I'm like, what's the status, man? Like, what's going on? He shakes his head and said, "Hey, she didn't make it." I said, "No, man, no." So I walk in, see you there, and already there.
Just gave him a hug, of course he broke down. I was already a wreck anyway. So we were all kind of just in there grieving together.
And grabs me, started crying. I go to the floor, start crying and say, "Man, how am I gonna tell my kids?" And that's when reality set in.
I remember my aunt calling me and my mom calling me, and they was telling me they was gonna pick me up from school, and we went to go get something to eat. And they took me outside and they told me that my grandma passed away. So when I found out she passed away, I couldn't breathe. Like, I couldn't breathe. It was the worst day of my life. The worst day of my life.
Yeah, I was in school and my mom called me really early in the morning. And she said grandma passed, and I didn't believe it, and I just broke down because I thought she would live forever like my grandpa. He died at like 102, 103, so I just was not expecting her to pass away. And it was just a shock, and I was just really sad.
This is a lie. This cannot be true. Like, nah, Lou. And it was true.
So when I found out she had passed, it was like 11 something that night. My mother called me and said, she passed. Oh man, extremely tough. It was tough. It was like losing a parent to me. She meant a lot to me.
And it was strange because Wednesday, I was waiting for her to call, and she never called me. But I didn't think anything of it because I knew that she would follow through. Thursday morning, I got up. There was a message on my phone from her sister Terry. Little strange, I said. I better give her a call. Let me see what's up. And that was all she wrote. I can't even describe, but I just sat there holding the phone in disbelief. Utter disbelief.
Calling my cousin, then going downstairs to comfort my mom as she found out that her little sister was gone was by far one of the toughest things I've ever done in my life.
My daughter and her were very close. They were really close. My husband and I kind of talked about, like, how do we want to let her know? I came home and I let her know that grandma went to heaven. So she was like, okay, But I knew she really didn't know what I meant.
It's easy to forget that she's not physically here because Aunt Lou is she's everywhere.
And we was preparing before the funeral and everybody was at the house days in the midst of that. And we looked up to the sky and was telling her, "Hey, you got exactly what you wanted. You got all your family right here."
After it happened, we came back home so we could, like, as a family, all be together. And that really helped. Like, when I was with family, they helped me, like, kind of distract my mind, and they let me know I'm not the only one feeling like this, and we're all going through a very hard time. So I was glad that we were all together, and it it didn't feel real also.
The next morning, I woke up thinking it was just a dream, but it wasn't. And so I went on the side of my Travis, my nephew's house, or in the back, and I was crying hysterically. I couldn't stop crying. Couldn't hardly breathe. And then this lime green butterfly came to me almost in my face. And I stopped. I said, Mary Lou, if that's you. And it flew away. I said, if it's you, Mary Lou, please come back.
Every time something happens and we were asking about Lou or things of that nature, the butterfly would just be in his presence. And we used to identify that as her just talking to us and saying everything was going to be okay.
So after Lou passed, we're all down home. We're at Travis's house or Anthony's house, they're right next door. So we were all outside. Lou had taken an interest in gardening. Her garden, she loved our flower garden. She would always have a flower garden. And even now we are keeping it going. And when I go, the first thing I look at is that garden that she started and loved. She loved to see things grow. And that's what I think about when I think of her. And we're standing by the flowers, and all of a sudden these yellow butterflies start to surround me. And she's laughing and smiling and playing with the butterfly.
Recently, this is how I found out. I feel like my grandma she's symbolized as a butterfly. For my birthday, I was very, very sad because my grandma, she would always text me or call me and stuff. And I was like, Grandma, I know you're not here physically with me, but if you're here spiritually, just let me see a butterfly today. And I saw like 1,000 butterflies in one day.
I was at the grave, weeks ago, and I got emotional there. And as soon as I began to cry, and butterfly just flew right by, so that's good, good memories to make you feel better.
It's insane because when the grief came, you try to, you become lost when grief comes. You're like, okay, do I need to pick up the pieces? What do I need to do in this space? And you try to kind of live as if you were Mary Lou or pick up some of her pieces, maybe the first couple of weeks or month after the death. But I had to tell myself, I'm not Lou. I can't do that. I have no idea on how she put so much commitment and individuality in each person.
I kind of get it from my dad. I'm like a private person. I don't like showing my emotions around everybody. So I don't really talk about it. And this is my first time talking about my grandma, really. I just try to hold it all together.
The love that my mom really displayed, it should continue. I know our family is hurting, but the only way we're going to get through this is if we do talk about it. We have to talk about it. We have to be strong for each other. And being strong means, to me, shedding tears, hugging, and shedding more tears. And we're finding out how other people are getting through it and talking about how we're doing and getting through it. It was really tough for me to deal with the grieving, and not 100% over it yet. Still a process.
It was like suffocating me every morning. I didn't want to get up or do nothing. So I just made up in my mind, I got to stop and get up.
Yeah, I went through this stage of everything that was in the house I took. Like, I got her scarf, I got her nightgowns, I have anything that's hers, I just took it.
I can't count the number of times I started to pick up the phone and call her.
To this day, I know that I lost, literally, I know it sounds cliche when people say this, but I know what they mean now, having experienced it. You lose a piece of you, and that piece gets buried with the loved one that you lost. So in that sense, I literally lost a piece of me.
How are we taking the jewels that she has blessed us with and applying them? And that's the phase that I'm in now. And if things do not work out in my favor, I'm okay with letting things go. Because what I'm realizing is that regardless of what comes and goes in my life, the only thing that matters and has importance is family.
when you lose a parent like this, that's your last time of feeling like a baby. What I mean in that sense is somebody's asking you, are you okay? Do you need anything? Worrying about you. Did you make it home? Did you make it on the plane safe? Did you land? You didn't text me back when you got in the house. All the annoying things that we used to always say, okay, mom, good, mom, good. When you no longer have it, you immediately go into full adult mode.
We get together and we talk about the good times that we had with Mary. And
one of the last text messages that I received from Aunt Lou was in reference to me planning the family reunion. She was like, I need the Zoom info. And I said, hey, Aunt Lou, I'm sorry the meeting is canceled. Love you. And then Aunt Lou said, love you too. Take care.
Yeah, and this year was the first year that we had family reunion without my grandma. And it was just different, you know.
You could feel the tension. You could feel the presence being missed.
It just wasn't the same. It wasn't the same, but we tried.
It was just weird. It was weird energy. Because again, like I said, she has a very big personality. So going in the house and it's just like a cold chill.
This past family reunion, not having her there, it was just it was a hole. Like what's missing? You could tell her presence was not there. But at the same time, what kept everyone going on is that she knew that she will cause more disheartening to her by not keeping it going, by not putting the work in, by not doing what she wanted to do.
If you had to give it one word, she was a nurturer. Kind of that water to everybody's plant. No matter when you needed it or you didn't need it, she was still there to give those words of encouragement or just be in the room.
When I go at home and I turn on the Hoover Road, Dixon Road, it's like, man, she's no longer here.
I miss the phone calls. I miss our visits.
Things that remind me of my grandma would be my Aunt Terry be trying to make beans and rice. My grandma was known for making that. It was a dish that brought the family together.
Well, I just miss her. Sometimes I see things on TV and I want to comment to her, and then, and there's no word.
I celebrate her, trying to remember her.
For me, the hair was her trademark was her hair. She had that short hair, and she kept it that way all the time. It never changed.
When I looked at my mother in that bed when she died, I cried. But at the same time, I say, well, man, you enjoyed life. You enjoy life.
Honestly, she went everywhere with us. So everywhere we go is like, remember that time? Remember that time? Our favorite restaurant is in Greensboro, and she would go with us there all the time.
She made it a point to know how everyone was doing and to check on them. And she was genuine about it.
She just shows unconditional love and joy for everyone. And I don't think it was a job to her. I think it was just a part of just who she is.
When someone else succeeds and someone that's accomplished something, Mary be the first to cheer him on.
My Aunt Lou had such a big presence, and there will never be another person to ever feel that. And it's amazing how many people she's affected and touched.
I just know Miss Mary is always and will always be a part of my life. If there's anything good that I've done or do, it's because Miss Mary helped me to become a better person. So I thank them for letting me borrow her for a certain time. And I thank them for letting me be a part of their family, and that we will continue to be what she wants us to be.
Just her sense of humor alone would light up a room and keep everybody engaged. And it was brutally honest sometimes, but it was funny at the same time. So
I miss her more than you would know. You almost will make me cry here because of the relationship we had when her father died and my mother died, and how me and Mary became so close to each other because we stayed in Arcadia when everybody else was gone, but we was there. And we had to go through all kind of different issues there together, and we survived it.
Like I said, she was an encourager. It's hard for me to say no to her because she has a way of, convincing me that it is the right thing to do. And most of the time it was.
Aunt Lou is Aunt Lou, regardless of who you are and who she's interacting with. I think that's why people love her.
I wish I could just hear her voice again or get that text message, because I would text back. That's my biggest regret. It's not texting back. That's why now I try to do better with texting my family members back, because
You just never know when's the last time you'll talk to them.
You know, the small phone calls or the small text messages just to check in really does matter, because you can be here one day and the next day you can be gone.
She showed love for her family. She showed love for me. And she showed love for what she was involved in. And she did it the right way. And that's what I loved about Mary.
She knew her purpose in life. She knew why God had put her here on this earth, and that was to serve him and to serve others and to love others. She did that.
I feel fortunate to have been a part of her life and to have her be a part of mine.
I don't even think it's an hour during the day. I don't think about 30 minutes, honestly.
She was dearly loved. She trained her children in a godly manner. I love them like they're mine, and I'm here for them in any way.
My daughter, she said it earlier today. She miss grandma literally every day. She misses grandma. And I tell her I miss grandma too.
Drew to Nia to Christian and Princess. I mean, all of them. They all have a symbol that she's played a role with them and planted a seed with. And I hope that they know that she loved them.
I would want them to know that their Aunt Lou is one of the greatest women that they would meet outside of their mama.
That she loved them with every ounce of her soul.
She loved them so much. She really loved them so much.
Whether y'all know it or not, y'all were her biggest, hugest pride and joy.
She was good. Just walk in her footsteps.
I wish they got to experience grandma at the stage where they were able to remember her. But we made sure to keep grandma's name still alive.
Your grandmother was a person that discerned right from wrong. That's all she wanted her grandkids and her sons to do, is do what's right.
That's one thing I want. They know that she believed and do the right thing. I'm not going to be here to watch over you all the time. That was her thing. If you do the right thing, everything gonna be all right. I think about that. Now, what would Luke do, a case like this?
That material stuff doesn't matter. That what holds value to you is family. And just really putting family first and putting God first.
To Christian, Princess, Nia, and Drew, you guys were given the gift of a beautiful, loving, precious grandma. Grandma is looking down on you guys and smiling, because she's so proud of each of you. Keep her deep in your heart through your sweet memories, and she will always, always be with you. There is healing power in memories.
I remember Mary telling me is that you procrastinate too much. I am a procrastinator. So I'm learning from Mary that when you want to do something, don't put it off, just do it. She's so encouraging. She make you feel like you could do anything.
She would always say, I don't think about it, I just do it. Whatever that it may be, whatever your it may be, she just did it. Whether that be taking care of people, looking out for people, doing the right thing, holding people accountable, being a leader, she just did it.
Looking at Aunt Lou's life, she just encourages me to just do it. She really lived life to the fullest, and she would just be like, well, what are you waiting for,
Mary is the epitome of a quote by Maya Angelou. People remember what you did, and people will remember what you said, but they will never forget how you make them feel.
That was Mary Lou, and it won't be another one. She won't be forgotten. She will not be forgotten.
My only message would be that she loved you, so much. She loved her grandkids so much, to the point she would call it the agape love, the strongest love you can think of. And there's nothing that she wouldn't do for them, They were her world.
One last question. Tell me what family means to you.
Family means truly love, unconditionally love, agape love, that no one can replace. If family needs you, you're there.